And as always, we will begin with 3 deep breaths. So let's take a deep breath in through the nose and softly let that out of the mouth. Another deep breath in again through the nose, softly out of the mouth. Last one, deep breath in, fill the whole body, and let out a nice sigh if that feels good.
Mm.
So today's topic is going to be when a mother heals, the children receive the medicine too. We think that's what the topic is going to be. With that being said, I am joined today by somebody who is a really important and special person in my life. Today, I am sitting here with Danielle Murolo, who is the way I met Danielle is as a healer. She is a Reiki master. She is a sound healer. She is a mother and a sister and a daughter and a community builder and a ceremonialist and a friend and a hard fucking worker and somebody that I deeply look up to. And my intention with bringing her into this Wolf Mother space today was because I am so endlessly inspired by Danielle's ability to show up in the spiritual community. So often I find that specifically women and mothers will tend to say that they don't have the time to do these things. They don't have the time to carve out for themselves. And over the last really 3 years now, I always think of Danielle, who we have here today, when people say that to me, because where I met her was at an ayahuasca ceremony. She carved out a weekend for herself. And then we started following each other on social media and we stood in contact. And she hosts these incredible, she does one-to-one sessions, but also incredible group gatherings in New Jersey. And so she would come from Jersey to Staten Island to also come to other one-off ceremonies at my house. And with 5 children that she has, she continues to carve out that time and space all the way to spending New Year's Eve with us in Peru on a plant medicine retreat. And I so admire the fact that, first off, that whole retreat was filled with parents that all carved out the time for themselves. But how I've gotten to know Danielle over the years is that, yes, she has many full plates in her life, and yet still you show up with such a resilience, a willingness to learn, an openness to expand, and a beautiful piece of the puzzle, which is you understand your healing is also beneficial to all of those in your life. And so, this episode, I'm so excited to really get into the juice of not just Danielle's life, but also the wisdom that she has to share, because I get to receive these little nuggets of wisdom through voice memos all the time. And I just really feel like, selfishly, of course, I want to keep all that to myself. And also beautifully, I know that Danielle has a very powerful story and a very powerful life, and she powerfully heals just by being herself. So I really want to bring that into the space today. And Danielle, I want to hand it over to you for a moment because I would love for you to speak about the career that you have. I would love for you to speak about the business that you have and anything else that you would like to use as an introduction before we then bring it back to maybe some other years.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much. That I don't know if anybody's introduced me like that in my entire life, so I felt that deeply in my heart, and I feel so honored to be able to be in this space with you at this moment. And thank you so much for just thinking of me, for this topic, because it is very deep within my soul. It's resonating very hard for me, so I'm very excited to share. Um, My career, I am in the medical field for over 20 something years. I am a director for a hospital facility. It's a hospital off patient site. I oversee 2 residency programs, ophthalmology, dentistry, about 36 residents. On top of that, with attending providers, staff members. So I'm a high leader in a very high pressure position, which I think that being in the medical field, initially as a child, I was actually ill. I suffered with ulcerative colitis. I was in the hospital the majority of my childhood. And what really stood out for me was the nurses in those spaces. They would when all the doctors weren't there, or my mother had to go home and leave me there as a 12-year-old child in the hospital overnight, nurses would sit with me and really take care of me and made me feel safe. So I initially wanted to become a nurse. That's what got me into the field. And because I was a single mother, I couldn't afford to finish school. So I just kept excelling in my career, and I worked my way up from front desk secretary to a director in the hospital system. And I finally did get my degree recently, which was a huge achievement for me. But regardless of that, there was always this part of me that really had this deep, um, I feel like this deep call to be of service. And I didn't really understand it then, but just what I was receiving from this space of feeling alone, feeling scared, having someone like a nurse hold space for me in that way as a child was very pivotal. It shifted me. So, through many, many years of soul searching, I got to a place where I tried the traditional route for myself, traditional medicine through, you know, um, for mental health as well, right? I suffered with anxiety and depression, and I just didn't I felt like there was something missing and I just didn't know what it was. And I started opening myself up to other things. I was raised super Catholic. So anything that was outside of that, you were just frying and going to hell. That's kind of the way it was. My uncle was a priest. We grew up in a was a very righteous Catholic home where they would talk about the end of the world consistently. There was going to be 3 days of darkness. We would have to be in the home. It was very, very, very righteous. So we grew up in fear. So there was a connection that I had to spirit, but it was more of a fear-based connection and a lack of understanding. So I didn't want to go outside of that, but I got to this place that I knew that there was more. And I started to explore different things through meditation, of course, is that first little gateway. And that even scared me, because I was having deep spiritual experiences that were more dark. I had sleep paralysis and all of these different things that were coming to me where I saw dark energies, and I didn't understand it, and it was very scary for me. So to tap into that part of myself, it was scary, and very taboo, but I did, and my life started to change tremendously. I Like I said, I found meditation. And then there was a very pivotal moment in my path where I decided to go see my first Reiki practitioner in Manhattan. And that experience changed my life. I felt peace and of the body, mind, and spirit in a way that I never had before. The practitioner, I'm a very visual person, so I had a lot of visual, beautiful things come through. And I didn't say one thing to the practitioner, and she actually told me everything that I saw. So when I walked out of that session, I was like, there is way more to this than I can even comprehend. And I started exploring deeper. And through that exploration, it was kind of this doorway. Of course, you open up that door, you go down that rabbit hole, and then that's kind of it. And I just started to peel away these parts of myself, because I think that I didn't know who I was at all, truly who I was. And that brought me to a space. I mean, I saw a shaman. I did all these different things, sound healing and multiple different holistic methods, cleansings, and you know, and this was even before I decided to sit with plant medicine at all. So I did a massive amount of healing. I was single for about 12 years. And through that experience, I really healed a lot of parts of myself. And I finally got to the space where I was like, I need to give back. So I started to learn, get my attunements with Reiki, and do little things in my house. You know, family members come over, my kids were doing little sessions. And then sound was really becoming a part of that for me through my own, going to other people and sitting with them. And I got my certification in sound healing as well. And I just started to really just naturally evolve that I felt like now it's time for me to give back because I was in a space where I could give back in a sense. So I opened up Sisters of the Conscious Soul, which is I'm a Reiki practitioner, like I said, Reiki master, sound healer, spiritual coach in Red Bank, New Jersey. And my focus really was, and it still is, on assisting women find themselves, remember who they truly are as well. Through my own experience, I feel like it's a deep calling. And through many other reasons, remembrances and deep, deep things that to assist women to find their truth and to uncover who they truly are and step into their authentic self and their power. So I hold monthly women's healing circles here in the community, and now I've expanded that, working with my sister Jamie. She's a my biological sister. She is in Pennsylvania, and she's a medicine woman. She serves the sacred mushroom. So we've started doing women's retreats together where we bring women together, to hold space and do women's work as well as sit with that sacred medicine. And it's been transformational to be a witness, very humbling to be a witness to other people on their journey. So that's kind of the basics of, where my business was, what my career is. I am a mother of 5 children, and I wear lots of hats. So yeah, that's kind of me in a little tiny nutshell.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing all of that because you're such a multifaceted human. And that's really what I want people to understand is women and especially mothers are multifaceted human beings, and you're not just one. And so thank you for sharing all of that because even working in the medical field for 20 years, like that, people that work in the medical field are healers in some way, shape, or form, whether that's giving someone a smile as they check you in, or that's actually, a doctor or a practitioner working on you and whatnot. So thank you for all of that. So I really would love if you would be able to share about your early experiences that really shaped how you view spirituality, family, and responsibility, if you're comfortable to talk about your teenage years.
Sure. So, as I like slightly mentioned in the beginning, I was very sick as a child. I also had not the greatest experience with a father figure in my life, right? So my father wasn't in my life. I was abused as a child by him. And then my mother was raising us, and she was married to a very gentle, loving man, my stepfather, for about 14 years, but he was an alcoholic. So my upbringing, and mixed with being from a very religious family, um, I felt very lost. I also felt like I always knew more because of those experiences. I was way more aware of everyone around me and what they were doing because that innocence was kind of gone at a very young age. So I kind of felt like I knew it all. As a child, I thought I knew it all. I knew better than everyone. And I also was a very lost child, very rebellious. I always had a very big voice. And when I was 14 years old, really 13 years old, I met my first love, my first sweet, innocent love. His name was Eric, and he was a wonderful person, totally head over heels in love. Like the first time we kissed, the room shifted. It was just like, holy cow, this is love. And obviously, because I didn't have like a positive male figure or a very strong masculine figure in my life, I kind of was left to my own. And my mom was working all of the time, trying to really provide for us. So me and my sister were like latchkey kids. We were roaming the streets, and I ended up getting pregnant at 14 years old. And when I did, obviously it was with Eric. I did, it was interesting, I could say the least. The first thing that happened was my family made me go to confession. They brought me to the church, me and my son's father, and they made us confess for this sin that we did of having sex and getting me pregnant. And Eric actually was an altar boy. He was involved in the church. Okay. So when we went, I actually didn't have that bad of an experience speaking to the priest that I spoke to. But when Eric did, this priest shunned him. And that pushed him completely away from anything related to faith, because that's all we really knew. We knew the Catholic religion because that's how we were raised. It pushed him away. So it was more, we were very embarrassed of this thing that we created, even though we were really, really in love. We were children, but we really were just shunned, kind of. But abortion was never an option. Our families, again, very Catholic. You're not doing that. Um, and adoption for me was not a question. So as the baby started to grow, I felt him kicking. I would put my headphones on my belly, listening to Pearl Jam, like making the baby listen to Pearl Jam. I was like this it was very interesting because my mother was not very nurturing. She just didn't have that. She came from actually a very hard abusive background. So for me, I was just this natural mom. Like, I already started feeling love when he was in my belly. And the second he was brought into the world, it was just natural for me to take care of this baby. I would wake up, he was premature. I was waking up every 2 hours, feeding this baby. My mother never had to help. She was like, my daughter's doing all of this, in regards to wake up in the middle of the night. She helped me definitely, but, she just was shocked. I remember the neighbors literally said to my mother, "You're going to leave her home with that baby while you go to work." And like, it was a huge shun, right? Everybody, like, wow, this teen girl had a baby, and there was just judgments everywhere. But once he came, and there was just actually an abundance of love and joy. My family, of course, accepted him and loved him, and he was raised by a village. He was raised by my son's father and his family, and he was raised by my big family, and he was really loved tremendously. But I think what happened at that point is, I mean, imagine I was 14 when I got pregnant. My birthday is June 25th. My son was born July 16th. I wasn't 15 a month when I had my child. So that moment made me realize, and I think a lot of mothers can understand this feeling, is that there is more than just me that I need to take care of in this world now. My life now becomes, this child comes first. And that happened at 15 years old. So um, always not putting myself in certain situations or doing certain things because I knew that my child had to be taken care of first was a priority. I mean, I still had Barbies in my room, and then I had a baby.
Mm.
So um, the mother that I became was very different than the mother I had.
Mm.
Very different. I was very nurturing, very naturally nurturing, and very attentive in a lot of ways. And I dropped out of high school. I stayed home with my baby. I got to raise him. I got to teach him his numbers and his letters and be like a very hands-on mom at a very young age. And even my friends, all my teenage friends, we would hang out in the park with the baby in the carriage and sing songs to him. And like, it was like he was a part of this big tribe, of people. Um, and then later on, it kind of, no one understood, like, oh, how can this person who I wasn't promiscuous as the first boy I kissed, I ended up getting
Mm.
pregnant. Wow, Danielle had a baby. Um, how did this happen? And it's like, I was an innocent child and naive and in love, like, and I didn't have guidance, and I was alone a lot. I mean, ding, 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 like things happen. Um, and I grew up really super fast, super, super fast, but I still experience life. And I think, really thinking about even this moment, it shaped me to know that even though I had my children, I still always had to develop who I was and grow, because I have this human being that is depending on me, and I don't even know who I am. I was a child, right? So I had this drive in me to move forward and create this life for him that I feel that I didn't have. And it was very, very deeply embedded in me.
Mm.
So, that started shaping who I was. At the same time, a lot of other things occurred. So I ended up leaving my son's father when I was about 19 and meeting my daughter's father. My son's father ended up passing away. And so now I was already like a widow in a way of
Mm.
my son's father at 19 years old. Um, and then my daughter's father was a drug addict.
Mm.
So this little girl who was very wounded just kept operating and moving, very lost, but still kept moving forward. But then, experience things that people maybe experience much
Mhm.
later on in life at a very young age. At 19, I already had someone who passed away, and I was in a relationship with someone who's a drug addict he was going to rehab. I mean, and I was,
Mm.
then we had a child. So I started raising two children basically on my own,
Mhm.
um, in my 20s.
We'll take a deep breath. Everyone take a deep breath in and gently let that go. Thank you for everything that you're sharing. I think the question that I want to prompt now is, with all of those things, and if you just want to continue to keep kind of telling us also the journey that you went on with being in a relationship with somebody who is an addict, I think that's also helpful for people to resonate with and understand as well. But also bringing in, like, so at what point, or do you feel like you were always learning to balance the self care or the Danielle time with showing up for others? And do you think that at this point in your life, you do have such a good balance because you were so young that the world kind of shifted you into that box?
No, I was a mess for a long time. I was definitely a mess for a long time, but I always, again, it was like there was these two sides of me. There was still this wounded little girl who is trying to numb herself and search for herself, right? Just search, like figure it out and try to understand. And then there was the mother. So there was these two hats at that point that I was wearing in that time, just significantly like, okay, I have to continue to work. Like I was working. I started my career. I was on Wall Street at a certain time. I was young. I was working on Wall Street. I was making crazy money. So I was taking care of my kid. I even sent my mom on a vacation. Like I was focused that way. But then there was my son would go to his dad's on the weekends because
Mm-hmm.
our relationship ended. So then I would go out and I was in the clubs and I was partying and I was trying ecstasy and all of these different things. And I was exploring this young, like rebellious Danielle, and living. And it was interesting because my family kind of supported that. They wanted me to do that in a way. Like they were like, okay, we'll watch the baby so you can go out and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. And, I'm glad I did because I feel like if I didn't, I would have repressed so much stuff. Like, and as an adult, like as a grown person, I wouldn't have done those things, and there would have been something inside of me that would be like screaming, "I need to rebel."
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to still, again, which is wild. I had an apartment. I was paying bills. I was taking care of a baby. I was living my life, but I also, when I had a break, I was like, I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna dance on the tabletops in Cancun, and I am going to do me, right? Experience that rebellious teenage stuff that I couldn't really experience. Um, and I was lost, right? I was very lost because just like any other, I feel like adolescent and then teenager, and it is even more skewed is like I'm a mother and a teenager and a child still inside. Like I was all those things because I lost that. It was lost. right? That transition period was like Barbie's by, and now you got a baby. So I was super lost in this natural transition didn't happen over time. It was just like, boom, you're gonna do this and figure it out. And so I did. And my home life wasn't great either. My mom was not happy with me, like we were fighting and it was unhealthy. My sister was rebelling. It was bad, at a point, like I moved out. I was sleeping on the couches of family members with my baby. Like it was very, very challenging. And my father, who really was in my life, and he's not all there. He was excited that he was a grandfather. I was like, all right, like what? Like it was just like this is not normal that your child, had a baby and you're excited about it. So anyway, I was lost. I was this lost soul, but at the same time, I really do feel that this love, this animalistic primal love that I had for my child and my children was always this force of no matter how sad I got or depressed I got or, you know, um, how much pain I felt. It's like, no, D, you got to keep going for these kids. Like, you got to
Hmm.
keep moving forward for these kids. Um, and I think that I would pray if you're talking about how did I connect with spirit. I would pray the way that I was taught to pray, like,
Mm.
God, please help me, get me through this, please. It was
Yes.
never like a place of real communication and gratitude and a true relationship with spirit. It was more, please, just on my knees, make this go away, make the
Mm.
pain go away instead of actively being a participant of doing the significant things that I needed to do to make the pain go away without real guidance from my family or adults. It's like you got to figure this out on your own, D. So I was
Mm.
lost. I was
I
definitely
feel like
lost.
I feel like there's two really beautiful avenues that we can go down, because in that sense, and maybe we'll save this for a little bit more because I do feel like this is an important piece of the puzzle for you to hit on, but I feel like this is the root of your women work. This is the root of why women's work is so important to you because your lived experiences have shown you time and time again how important it is to have that village, to have that tribe, to have an adult who can turn around to you. And I feel that way with you all the time. I come to you just to get my little, you're like a little oracle deck that I have. And I can just pick a card with you and you give me whatever wisdom you have to share that day. And it like soothes whatever nervousness I feel in this world because there is a lot of pressure that I do feel in this world as being a woman and as being someone who, you know, I chose the route of abortion at 24. But like, if I would have had more women like you at this point in my life, would I have made a different decision? I was doing spiritual things, but I was very much so like, I don't have that support. I'm fucked. There's no way I can do that. Right. So, like, I feel like this is really the root of the women's work. But I also, before we really like dive into the beauty of the divine feminine, I also feel you did mention that you have 5 children. And so I want to weave that in here as well. After you found some sort of balance that you did with your son and your daughter, the universe brought in these 3 other incredible children into your life. Your soul children, as you call them. But
Mhm.
they, for people listening, they are Danielle's stepchildren. And was that another boat where you had maybe with your 2 kids you had found that boat to ride out and then the universe brought in 3 more and you were like, okay, now the boat is a little, we're rocking again, we got to refigure it out. I would love if you could share what their entry into your life, how that once again shaped your worldview or your view on community and you nurturing yourself. I
Mhm.
know that's a big question.
No, no, no. It's important. I think that by the time that I got to this place that my beautiful soul children entered my life, I had been single for 13 years because I knew that I was not okay and that I made a very, very I kind of drew the line in the sand. I was like, this this is not healthy because my daughter's relationship, I was with my daughter's father for 13 years. He was a drug addict. It was very unhealthy. And I lost myself completely in that relationship. I felt I was like this small. It was very codependent, very unhealthy, and very verbally abusive, just a very unhealthy relationship. And I knew that I didn't want to do that again. I didn't want my children to be around unhealthy men or partners, whoever I chose. I didn't want to bring them into that because I knew what it felt like to be around my mother and the people she brought in. And I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel loved. I felt alone a lot of the time. And also, I just knew that even though I and was nowhere near where I am right now, spiritually, or had the awareness, self-awareness, the emotional intelligence, all of those things, I knew that I was going to stop the cycle. There was a just this drive in me, like, I am not going to fucking let anyone abuse my child. I'm not going to let my child watch me get abused. I'm just not going to do it. And I made a very big decision when I ended that relationship. And I just worked on myself so much for 13 years, of just between therapy and, again, these soul searching things of doing all these holistic practices, and really found my spirituality and started peeling away layers to uncover who I was. So that by the time I met my husband, Lorenzo, um, I met him online. I met so many guys online, but I met Lorenzo online, and I was in a place where I was like, if I don't like, if I don't meet my partner, I'll be all right. I'll be good doing this world alone 100%, because I through those 13 years, I learned to love myself. I actually started loving myself, loving my body, loving the shadow of me, understanding it a little bit more and where it came from. And then also closing cycles of, like, writing a letter to my father who abused me and giving it to him and actually speaking my truth without anger, not projection, just truth, and him saying, okay. And it was literally right at that time when I did that, I met Lorenzo. I swear it was like a week or two later. So I met him. And when I met him, I was in such a space where I was ready to hold space for him and his children in a different way. Because if he would have met me years before that, I was a mess still. I was still trying to figure out and peel away the layers. And I had so much more awareness, so that, and I had practices and coping mechanisms and knowledge, that I just didn't have. So that when I met his children for the first time, there was like no pressure or no expectation. It was just, let me get to know you as a human being, kid. Like, let's get to know each other, and not coming in as like, oh, I'm gonna be your mom kind of thing, because they didn't have a mother. Their mother was a drug addict. Me and
Hmm.
Lorenzo have very similar stories. He was raising his children on his own, just like I was. Very successful man. And it was like the universe brought us together, where I was in this space where I did enough work so that I could hold space for these kids in a very natural way. So it was never not natural. When we all met, when I brought my children in with them, they just all naturally meshed together. Was it hard? Absolutely. Because those initial, you know, meetings, and now we're not living together. We're seeing each other on the weekends and just spending time at each other's homes. You don't really live with someone and know, like, all that's really happening. I understood their background and their challenges, but I didn't really understand the significant trauma that they had been through as well. And it was a blessing, because a lot had gone on where they were not okay. And I did have some knowledge and resources already that I was able to bring in and, kind of suggest to Lorenzo, like, maybe this would help them, or maybe that would help them in a gentle way. Um, and there was times when I was a little bit like, no, this isn't going to work. Like, we need to do something about this. Um, And there was like a push and a pull, right? And when you're raising your children on your own, there's like this ego and a pride that steps in, like, I know what I'm
Mm.
doing. Like, who do you think you are telling me what to do, kind of thing. So when we moved in together, it was complicated. Not having Lorenzo tried his best always. He had a very nice home. He made it really cute for them, but you don't have that feminine energy, that motherly kind of like, thing going on. So simple little things like you're going to cook and you're going to leave crumbs all over the freaking counter every single time. Like things that me and my kids, like they just learned. Now we're
Mm.
going to have to relearn. And that living together, moving in together, I started getting triggered. And I'm like, shit,
Mm.
why? What else do I need to work on? Because I don't want to ruin this. This is something that is really beautiful. And I knew that we had something that was healthy and we needed to put in that work. So that is when we started going to therapy together, me and my husband, before we even got married. And then I was still being really triggered. And it got to this layer. I don't even remember what happened, but something happened in relation to the kids. And it was just like little mundane things, right? And there was a lot of pushback. And I was really having a hard time. And I was like, you know what? I was being called to ayahuasca for 6 years. I was terrified about purging and shitting my brains out. I thought that was going to be like the thing. I was like, I'm not, that was my reason not to go. Um, but it got to a point where I was like, I need to do this. And I got in my car, went to New Hampshire, and that's when I met you. And I think that the that step for me was again this next step in my journey, because before that I didn't have that, the intelligence of the medicine to guide me a little bit more, right? I had no clue actually what it was like to feel humbled and surrender to
Mm.
something higher than me. I never felt that way. Going to church, like I said, all those things, it was like, what are these people talking about? But when I sat with that medicine for the first time, I felt spirit
Mm.
in a way, like I'm getting chills just thinking about it. That was so humbling, and purging over a bucket on my knees, feeling grateful and so
Mm.
grateful to release these things that I couldn't on my own. Um, it was just pivotal for me in my journey. And when I did it, I did it on my own, and it was no matter who I brought in my life, I was still again always on this journey of things aren't outside of me. Like I need to figure out why this keeps coming back into my world, why this situation keeps, I'm in a loop here. Like, why is this? It's a little bit better than it was, but I still keep looping back here to this reminds me of something from my past. And I need to dive deeper into that because this man, this wonderful man, is my mirror, my partner here. He's showing me something that my skin is crawling and I'm ready to jump out of it. But I need to do something because if I don't do
Mm.
something, not only now I have 5 children that are depending on me
Mm.
to show up. So that really has always been this driver. It's like, I'm going to do whatever I can to break these unhealthy patterns within myself so that I can create this different reality, not only for myself, but for the people that are being in my presence, right? Um, and the toxic bonds of my lineage, right? Let me release those things so that these children could be free, that they can move
Mm.
forward. And I was lucky enough that I met a man who was willing to do that work on himself as well. So I think that's the only thing that makes that work as parents, period, is if your partner and you are both willing to work on yourself individually and come together to create together the life together, right? But still, you need to have your own thing. You need to have your own life. It doesn't matter if I have 500 children. If my cup is halfway full and not overflowing, like I need to give the overflow to them. And if I am
Mm.
so empty, how could I do that? So Yeah.
That was so beautiful and so perfect because I was going to say, like, and now the question would be, like, what brought you to plant medicine? What guided you to plant medicine? And it's so beautiful to hear that this driving force of motherhood and parenthood to your children and your soul children and just the small army that you guys have together is this beautiful thing that brought you to such an incredible medicine. And that is where Danielle and I met, was that weekend. Danielle, for those of you, because if you're watching it on YouTube, you're getting to see her beautiful face, but you can't see how small she is. She's a very wonderfully compact, tiny woman. And yet you had such a large presence for me that weekend that I could feel that, like, I'm there technically at work, right? Like I'm working the weekend, and like for you to come over, and first off, you were so cute. You were just like enamored by everything. Like you just had these big, bright eyes of, again, like I said in the beginning when I introduced you, like just a willingness to, like, what wisdom can I learn from you? What teaching can I gather from this moment with you? And you just had that weekend, but also you're just, it's so incredible to see this tiny little woman also radiate such an incredible power because you walk with such a confidence that you know who the fuck you are, which is why it makes total sense that you do women's work where you empower feminine energy. So I would love to, before I have some more questions that are on the Peru trip about fear, because I think that'll be helpful for a lot of women to listen to. But an overarching question that I kind of have for your experience with plant medicine is like, it's just for me to really know. And so now everybody else is going to get to hear it. What is the most meaningful impact that you feel like the spirit of ayahuasca has gifted to you since you've begun working with her?
Big loaded question. Out of all the medicines I've sat with, I feel like she has been the biggest teacher for me, actually. Um, for a very long time, when I've sat in space, um, I was shown, I was shown the pain, right? The pain of my trauma, right? My sexual abuse as a child. She always shows me different parts of it, different sides of it. She shows me pieces of things. This is the key, I think. She shows me I think I've moved through something, right? So I think I've healed this piece of the puzzle. And then she says, wait a second, look at this side of it. And what do I mean by that? So for a long time, I worked on my father sexually abused me. I was a baby, was maybe one. Um, I worked on healing that wound with that masculine. This is my father, the person that I'm supposed to trust more than anything. And he took my innocence away and he hurt me. And I healed through that of like, well, someone must have did this to him. And, all of those pieces of forgiveness and this deep pain of the masculine, of anger towards men and thinking every man is going to hurt me that way or every man's going to abandon me that way. And it was so embedded in me because it was done at such a young age that it was so deep that I had to really, the majority of years of those 13 years I was describing was focusing on that part of my healing. But when I sat with medicine, when I sat with ayahuasca, she's like, but wait, you didn't see that when your baby sister, who were 17 months apart, the second she was born, you started to pinch her and hurt her and abuse her. Right. So that was a message I got through with the medicine. Then when I went to Peru with you guys, this is like years again, this deep wound, you realize like this wound is so deep. There's so many complex parts of this wound that the medicine, that intelligence can show you all of the complex parts of these wounds that you just don't have the awareness and knowledge on. So they can bring it to the surface. So now she's showing me, oh, wait, your mother was there and she didn't know. So she did nothing. Right. So it's now, oh shit, I gotta heal that part of that wound too. And then years later, showing me like picture of me as a child, chubby and naked with a doll in my hand. And that, oh, your father actually would look at that picture in a sexual way. So these pieces, they're so deep and I'm being so real with it because I can't, I think not just me, but the human mind in this dimension, in this reality, cannot on our own go to all those complex and deep parts of ourselves because we are just in a very dense reality, right? And we're always stimulated by something else. So to be able to go within with the guidance of this beautiful spirit of this medicine to show me these parts of myself that I can't uncover alone, or even 30 years through therapy, maybe I wouldn't uncover that within two
Mm,
days, I have had this experience that has pivotally changed my life to the point where now I could take that back and actually do the work, right? Like, what do I need to do next, right? So I feel that that's the key with the medicine is not the answer. The medicine is the teacher. The medicine, it's and my sister always says this, Jamie, when we're talking to clients, is imagine going to a classroom over and over and over again. And you sit down with the same teacher over and over and over again, but you never go out and actually take the information that you learned with that teacher into the world and
mm,
incorporate it and make changes. There's no point of that. So, sitting with these beautiful, sacred medicines that can assist in my awareness and growth, that I've actually been able to make significant changes in my life where I've released so much pain. Um, it's such a gift, and it does make you sad in a sense that people are still so stigmatized by it, right? Like it is such a beautiful gift that is to be cherished. Like I can't explain how much I cherish those moments of deep awareness because the medicine is you.
mm,
I am the medicine. I have all of the answers inside. Sitting with these beautiful, higher intelligent plants are giving me the gateway to just explore and learn more about myself. And I've learned so much about myself in this lifetime, but I've been shown multiple lifetimes of my soul's experience and why. You're talking about why am I doing women's work? Um, I mean, when I went to Peru with you, the medicine showed me that at one time I was a Mayan warrior girl and I was fighting with a whole bunch of women. And it's like, that's why, because you're going to help women rise up and find themselves again through your journey, the awareness and the learning. Anyone can do it, right? It's all within them, but it's just surrendering enough to receive.
mm. What a beautiful answer to that question. And I feel like you also captured how incredible of a medicine that ayahuasca, but also all of these plants, what they really bring to us is just a deeper version of ourselves because they are this intelligence that lives on this planet. And I mean, I know I've also said it too, where it's like humans, we can only access so much while are in the human body, but working with these plant medicines gives us that opportunity to expand that slightly for however many hours it is that the medicine is really working with us, and then and that's why integration is so important. And then we come back to the human body and we're like, whoa, that's so much to unpack. And I also want to thank you so much for your openness, your rawness, and your vulnerability, and really sharing how that has supported you in your journey with sexual abuse as well. Um, so I feel like when we do our discovery calls or we just talk to people in the community, there is this fear, obviously, that lives around. I say obviously because, of course, there's fear to say yes to a psychedelic where you're gonna purge into a bucket or you might need the toilet, especially for you guys when you and Lorenzo deciding to come to Peru. That's a different step of the journey. You guys were willing to come to a different country, a country where you don't speak the language. And so I feel like it's such a deep devotion to say yes to these types of experiences. So what if I'm going to kind of rattle off some of these questions and whatever intuitively comes through for you. But like, what went into the actual decision to travel to Peru over New Year's Eve? While I know your children are older, they're not like little kids, but you still had five kids at home that were going to celebrate New Year's by themselves. What fears came up? I know at this point you guys had already been working with plant medicine, but other fears, were there anything that other people had said, but your inner truth, kind of guided you to that yes anyway?
So I think the first thing is that you and Dylan hold space. I've been in your space, and I've been even the first time I sat in the medicine, even though the place that we were sitting wasn't the greatest place, you and Dylan made me feel safe. Um, and so safe that I could go into my experience, right? Even when I might have been afraid, right? So I think that's the first thing, as well as, yes, I sat with medicine here in the States, and I felt that to have this opportunity to be with the indigenous people on their lands, with you and Dylan as our guides, is like just an opportunity of a lifetime in a sense for us, right? It's like, why why wouldn't I do this, right? Because I think that number one, it was time again. It was about a year or more since I sat with medicine. I was integrating those experiences. I'm still integrating my first experience with medicine still, right? So um, I was still integrating, but it got to the point where I was so called, like my soul said, yes, we need to do this. And sitting with my husband, he felt the same call. It was a call that was so just primal in a sense, like, yeah, we need to do this. My soul saying, Danielle, you need to do this. Um, Fears related to that. The only fear I really had is you're traveling to a foreign country. I mean, I'm traveling to a foreign country that I've never been to. I am going to sit with the medicine. Each time you sit with medicine, no matter what medicine it is, you always have that fear of what's going to come up. What am I going to see? I think that the reason why I didn't really have like so much fear related to actually making that choice with you guys is because I've already experienced your medicine as a facilitator and what you bring to the table in all of your ceremonies. I knew I was going to be safe. And the mission that you guys have so publicly of making sure people are sitting in safe spaces with these medicines, I trusted that this was going to be a safe space. That to me, that's the key for it. Is this a safe space? Because there's a lot of spaces that aren't safe, and you don't know that in the beginning, right? You're vulnerable. But I can speak from 100% of my own experience. I do say this to people all the time, like I would never recommend a hairstylist to someone if I didn't experience it, right? So if I've experienced your work and I know what that work is and the way you hold space and how you cultivate that experience from, the most beautiful little gift bags and ponchos to the most beautiful sound healing and like the things and the horses, like we experienced sound healing with horses. Like, are you kidding me? On the mountaintops of Peru, like these experiences are like a dream. Like I felt like I was in a dream when I was there. But the natural fear of going into spaces within myself, what is the medicine going to show me next? That comes every time I sit with medicine. It doesn't matter how many times I sit with medicine. It doesn't matter if I'm facilitating or holding space for others. I still feel that excitement and that little fear of what's going to come up during the ceremony. Are we going to be able to do this? And I learned through that experience as well and get healing through that experience. So I think that it was a very clear yes for me with you. Like it wasn't a question. It was yes. And then it was more, how do we do this? Right? Like, how do we get this to happen? And, you know, Lorenzo, while we were there, so many times he's like, you cannot put a price on this. Like, there is no price for this experience. Like, this is a life changing, transformational experience that I didn't want to come home. Like, I was like, I want to be like a little kid stomping my feet. Like, I don't want to leave. Like, this has changed me in ways that I think it was also like where I was and also the other individuals that were a part of that came together. We were so meant to be in that space together. And we've all tremendously grown after that experience, you know, and we did it collectively, like we collectively and individually healed in that space together to release so much, to remember, and then to bring that back through integration into our life and actively move forward. And it is like I can't thank you enough, because if you didn't create a safe space to do that, we wouldn't have been able to do that work.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. I receive. I definitely I receive the compliment in all of that. And I also think it speaks to experience of both Dylan and I being in spaces that were safe and unsafe, and even after being out of that retreat center that we originally met in, you're going to make mistakes and you want to learn from those mistakes. So, really, it was like every little bowling bumper that we could have put up for that retreat is what we did and what we've been doing going forward to ensure that everyone, listen, the reality is plant medicine's intense. Speaking of intense, you are my favorite purger of all time.
I
You
mean,
you have such an intense purge, but I also think people that are facilitators, I feel like we can all feel this way. It feels so good when you hear someone you're like, what the fuck? I swear though, it you can feel the energy of someone purge, and so you crack me up anytime you're purging. Um
purging, that's the funny part, is the purging is the thing that scared me, right? But the purging is the most sacred part of it, right? It's like, thank you for literally allowing me to transmute this energy through this vessel and get it out of my body. But you don't understand that. And I try to explain that to people as well, that you're releasing through the vessel. Like I've purged, like when we purged, I was purging in Peru, I literally saw 7 generations. I heard 7 generations. And I was like in a tunnel, and it was like, and I saw all these faces, all these different faces screaming. And I knew that I just released for 7 generations before and after me. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like these are things that you can't believe, right? Like
right.
until you experience this. But that is the gift of it, is that it can allow you to do that. But again, I go back to that. I wouldn't be able to do that in the way that I feel the most safe and vulnerable. Okay, if you didn't create that space to do that work, because it could be disruptive and it could be scary and it could be, like what's happening, where did the medicine come from? And like all these questions people don't ask because they don't know. They're just, so a lot of people, and I was desperate for healing, desperate for healing. So you're going to go anywhere. And then you're not educated enough about what is safe and what is not. So, to speak just a little bit on that for you, is you taught me through my experiences, now that we hold space for people. You have been a huge, well, you've been a huge teacher for me, period. But you've been able to teach me what safe space is, and to build upon that. How do I make sure this space is safe? And that's a key pillar for me in all of my work, is to make sure that the space is safe for someone. So I thank you for being an example of that. I really do. I honor you so much, because it is a blessing to have you in this world, to be a safe space for people to come to do the deepest work that they could ever do.
Thank you. I really do receive that. And it also makes a difference when, and we all know this, right? Like when it comes to like safe spaces, right? We can say that a space is safe until we're blue in the face, but like the people genuinely have to feel that way. And it also is our discernment of who we say yes and no to being in those spaces, which is why Dylan and I have the policy of we can tell you no after the discovery call.
Mhm.
Because the retreat that you came when you were in Peru, the five of you were so meant to be together. It's crazy. Like that family cohort is probably the closest family that I feel Dylan and I have ever watched come together. That like there was a point where we told all of you guys that like, okay, now's downtime. You guys can go do whatever you want. And everyone was still at the table. Everyone
Yeah.
was like, well, we just want to sit here and talk to each other. So that's what we're going to do for our downtime. And I was so inspired by the fact that every single one of you was parents. And every single one of you was parents, and you had your own journey with being a parent, being married, being divorced, you and Lorenzo being remarried, other people also being remarried, or some people just dating. Like there was such a truthfulness theme to that retreat where everyone was like, well, listen, this is life and life is messy. Healing is messy. Transformation is messy. And I'm going to show up with my mess and talk about it with the person next to me. And everyone was so accepting of everyone's mess that I think that also created so much safety because the five of you were just so real about it. There are so many people that, you come to the medicine and there's just that, um, they just don't want to go there, right? They signed up because they said they want to go there, but then they come up against the wall and they're like, I'm not willing to break through the wall. But you
Mhm.
guys, you were like, walls don't exist here. Everyone was just being as open and truthful as possibly could be, as willing as you could go. So thank you guys for also making that space so incredible at that time. And so I think a good question to go from here is how have you been? That today is December 30th when we're recording this podcast. So 2 years ago, you were here with us. We had just done the first ayahuasca ceremony, and it would have been the following day. We would have had breakfast and integration at this time
Mhm.
2 years ago, and we were preparing for our second one. I would love for you to speak into how your women's work has transformed, not just in the way that you nurture these women, but also in the way that you've nurtured your children, because also your daughter has just also blossomed and just fucking rose like there's no tomorrow. Like I feel like her roots have went deeper as she's also continued to skyrocket, and the way that the two of you also weave together is just so incredible to witness.
So I think when it comes to being a mother and a parent in those spaces, just as you're talking about this, um, I feel that this being open to healing on all levels and expressing that to our children, letting them know our experiences. So we have never hid that from them. We have had conversations when they've been open to it, of course, um, to let them know what this medicine or medicines have done. So there's coming home from a retreat like that as a parent. I learned so much about myself, but it also makes me so humbled and filled with gratitude for my children and the life that I have, or for the things that I need to own up to and be real with my children, so that my children know that I'm not just a mother. I am a human being. I'm a person who has a million complex feelings and emotions. So talking about our children evolving, they're evolving with us. Bringing this medicines into your life to help you evolve and heal gives you a deeper awareness on how to speak to your children and how to navigate emotions and feelings, and let them see that you are this complex, beautiful human being that is still trying to figure out fucking life and yourself. And you're not just this authority figure, right? So it starts to peel away these layers as well of these walls that have been put up like, I'm your parent, I'm telling you what to do, you better listen, and that's it. It's more of like, no. My child is a human being. They're a sovereign being. They are having their own experience on this earth. And my experience and what I'm going through, I've been put in this place to be a teacher for them, a pillar for them. So if I can't share all of that with them, I am actually doing a disservice, right, to my children. People can look at it as a very taboo thing that we're not going in the woods and having a great time. This is the deepest, most profound work you can do that's very hard. So coming home, you're open and you're vulnerable and you still feel that medicine in you for ayahuasca for about a month. So I come home and I hold my children and I express what I've gone through and I say sorry sometimes. And sorry for the things that I've done that I need to say sorry for, because I did them maybe when I was just trying to survive, right? Whatever it is, so that they understand me deeper. So by doing that, they have had the opportunity to be open when they're ready to experience these medicines as well. So our children, like Gabriella's 23, Madison's 21, they've been able to sit with medicines and they have, because they were ready. Again, this is their journey. And we're blessed because we can bring them into a safe space to do that. Again, they have been able to dive deep into themselves at a younger age, right? And the gift of having my daughter, Madison, she do this work, and where she's at right now, she's been in space, she sings in space, she's a guardian in space, she's been able to bring in a younger generation of women into our spaces to start doing the work at a younger age so that their children will be in a different space. Like, this is how we change the world, right? Like, you change the world a little bit at a time. So for me, the woman's work, that deep work, um, number one, talking about after your retreat, the expansion that had happened for myself personally, related to the woman's work, I was shown, like I said, in that specific space, because a lot of times in medicine had shown me dark places, places of where I was sex trafficked, or, old, horrible, a lot of horrible things happened to my soul. And then showed me this powerful warrior bitch, right? Like, bitch, you are a fucking warrior. You've been a warrior. And that's what you're here to do now, right? Help these women rise up. So when I came back, I was in a space where I wasn't like, my business was still growing, and it's still growing, of course. And I'm a forever student, but the things that I did learn there help me empower to step deeper into my medicine. What do I bring to the world? What is my medicine? And because I've started to peel those layers deeper, doing my own individual work still, I've peeled back so many layers that I've been able to remember these natural gifts. Like, I channel an ancient language now that comes out of me. My Reiki is very different. Much more shamanic in nature, because I'm tapping into a different frequency that I think I was just, and I think, like, overall, like, encompassing and overall, is that we're so bogged down with so much heaviness of the dense energy of the pain, the fear, the trauma, all of that. It's kind of the onion needs to be peeled fully to get to that space of, wow, that's what I needed to work on, that deepest wound. But at the same time, because I was able to release that, now I'm able to remember more and bring in more because I'm at a different frequency, right? Being at that frequency, I'm able to now assist my daughter and other people's daughters, and they're called to me. I can't even tell you, Madison brought all of her college group girls to one of my women's circles. The whole circle was young women who never did anything like this before. They had such a pivotal experience, each one of them individually. It was beyond beautiful. But just, even if it's just a seed that's planted very small, this expansion that starts to happen, how it slowly starts to grow in somebody, it makes them realize that they're not just this body and this, I'm not just a daughter, a mother, of this, that. I am this infinite soul that is more magical than I could have ever imagined, right? And to know that, because I know that now, when I speak, I'm speaking from a place of knowing, not maybe. And I
Mm.
think that's a big difference when someone speaks from a place of knowing. Someone is not going to look at you like, maybe they're still like, she's crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. But you definitely impact someone in a different way than when they experience it themselves with you. And they're like, well, what was that? And now they've opened up the doorway as young women to start maybe exploring deeper and stepping into their power and understanding their womb space and understanding what they are and all of those things that we have not been taught
Mm.
in traditional society. We've been taught to suppress it all. So stepping into that space with young women, my daughters, watching them do work on themselves, it's just like one of the best fucking gifts, and it makes me know, all right, D, you're on the right track still here, right? You're on the right track. Like, no matter how hard things get, you are still on the right track here, you know? So it's just humbling, and I'm so grateful. So but the experience with that medicine on in the land, the
Mm,
medicine showed me. She flew me over Peru. I flew over the mountains. We saw the land. She showed me the land. To sit with a Shipibo, like that was just something that the power of the Icaros and the connection with this medicine that they have with their own medicine, their medicine was so powerful. So I feel like truly, specifically for that medicine, you should be sitting on that land with that medicine, that where the medicine came from, right? Not that somebody made it in their Brooklyn basement. Like you should be sitting on the land, right? Or with those people that have really truly studied this medicine, because it is a completely different experience. And I feel like it projected me into another version of myself that was more, I was braver, I felt, to step into the next place because I had more real knowledge of who is this soul living in this body. I
mm.
was shown things to know, not just question anymore.
That is so fucking beautiful. And I also think that, yes, the medicine that you drank, like sitting with the maestra that we work with, Sarah, she's also a courageous woman. She's a brave woman. She's a grounded woman, but that bitch is a hustler. You know what I'm saying? And she's got four kids of her own that are all college graduates and also all sit with her in ceremony and sing the Icaros with her, you know? So there's also this piece of just being with powerful women. Like it is just such an important piece of life, I think, for all genders. Sitting with powerful women is important. There's just something incredible about it. And it's also something that I've shared with people over the years was when I sat with ayahuasca the first time in the jungle with Dylan when we came to Peru. The next morning, I had a difficult time during the ceremony. Then our maestro closed the ceremony, and that's when it really started for Dylan. So he had like no sleep. So the next morning, he's still sitting with his bucket, like hasn't went to bed, just watching the sunrise. And I'm like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm like, "Good morning." And I said to him, I was like, "Dude, that felt like a different medicine." And he was like, "Yes, Dan, you're in the land where it grows." Like he was so done with me, like he just didn't have the time for it. But it really was just such a different experience. Maestra really does want to come to the States. She that is something she continues to ask us about. It's just that there's a lot that goes into bringing her there safely, doing medicine safely in the States and stuff like that. There's a lot that goes into it, and we want to make sure that we're always above board because again, that creates a parameter of safety for people
Yes.
when everything is above board. Although it's a bit more work for us behind the scenes,
Mhm.
it creates those bumpers, you know. And so I would love for you to share. I have one more question, but I would love for you to share your upcoming offerings that you have, which I'm going to put into the show notes, but anything that you want to add about the women's circles, about the ceremonies that are coming up. So give us
Sure.
everything you've got going on.
So my next women's circle is January 17th at 1 p.m. I hold them monthly. So if you go to my website, you can see up until April, there's availability. What I do in that space is I bring women together to really feel seen and held. We support one another. We'll do some deep interactive activities where you really feel held in a sisterhood, right? Where you can feel seen and heard, or maybe just feel safe, right? A lot of people, again, as women, we have this thing as mothers, as wives, friends, sisters, all those things. We wear so many hats, and we arrive a lot in the masculine energy. because we're supposed to just operate like that. Just keep going, keep going. If you're emotional, you're judged, blah, 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 whatever. These spaces bring women together, just kind of from all different walks of life, to just really be able to see themselves reflected in one another, and to truly just be, right? Whatever you're going through, whatever you need to feel needs to come out to the surface to speak, right? You're going to be held and seen. Additionally, you're going to receive Reiki from me. Also, I do channel my ancient language, which a lot of people will think is something, you can call it light language. I don't consider what I do light language. I consider it my own language that has been remembered through me. I'm not channeling something else. That comes through, and then you receive a beautiful sound healing. So it's a beautiful experience. We're there about 3 hours, just really just doing the work, and then you're just receiving, right? So that is something that will definitely continue. It's an offering that I'm really proud of. It's really grown in this community in New Jersey. I have a lot of other healers who have been coming into my space, and I've been coming into theirs. So I think that's another key when it's related to women's work. As women as well, we judge one another. There's always been this thing where we felt competition for one another, right? That is diminishing. It's starting to diminish, especially I feel, with a lot of the people I'm connecting with in this community, where we're coming together to help the collective rise up. So I think that's huge. Is there's not a competition. My medicine is my medicine. Your medicine is yours. We're going to come together. We're going to share, and that includes the medicine of. I'm saying we all have medicine, right? So. I sometimes talk about it, that in our circles too, is what is your medicine that you bring to the world? And oh, I'm a painter, or I love to listen. And that's a medicine too. So recognizing that we're all here together to come back together, to work together, to rise up, and to find ourselves again. So that is how those circles really work. Um, Also, I do, as I mentioned in the beginning, me and my sister Jamie from Ayana Spirit Medicine Sanctuary. She is a amazing healer as well in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. She does soul retrievals, Reiki, and her main thing is serving the sacred mushroom. So we do have a women's retreat coming up. We collaborate or just women's retreats right now, February 20th to the 22nd. Um, we haven't determined exactly where yet we're going to have it. It might be New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or New York, but we welcome women to come and have a discovery call with us, which is free, just to really see, is this the right space for you? Are you ready to do this work? Are you physically, mentally, ready to sit in a space, a collective space, to dive deeper into yourself, to do a little bit more of that intensive work, right? For a full weekend together. So, again, that has been a gift, and that has come after your retreat of now we're expanding. I've released so much of other people and things that were holding me back, that I was
Mm.
overcompensating for. And as I've released, I've brought in other people, other healers in the community that are at the same frequency, that have the similar goals, so that we could do this work together. So me and my sister are doing that together with other amazing practitioners. We have a team of 6 people that we're working with right now, to create safe spaces where women can do this type of work. So yeah, so that's what's going on. And individually, I do individual beautiful sessions for my clients. We have Reiki, sound healing. I do spiritual coaching. So I do everything right out of my own home. In the summertime, I have a yurt space in my backyard. So yeah, I'm very local and building myself in the community. And I welcome anyone who's called to sit with me. If you just have questions about me more, or want to learn more about what I do, I welcome all of them.
Yes. And so all of those will be down below in the show notes on whatever platform you are listening to. And so the final question that I have for you is something that I've asked every person that has shared this beautiful podcast space with me, which is, what one word of prayer or intention do you feel is alive for you right now that you would like to share with anyone who's listening?
I feel the two words that are coming up for me are embodiment and strength.
Mm,
Um, I feel that I'm really connecting deeper with the body, right? So I'm embodying everything, but I've worked so much on my soul and my emotional, mental, spiritual health, but I've disconnected a lot from this body. Um,
mm,
because I didn't feel safe in this body. So I want to embody it all and bridge this relationship and be strong stepping into this new year, this year of the horse. I truly feel like I did shed so much in the year of the snake. I shed and rebirthed parts of myself, and now I'm stepping into this deeper role as a spiritual leader, right? It's not
mm,
just a leader in the medical field. It's now I've grown enough and learned enough, not that I learned it all, I'll never learn it all, but enough that now I can really be of service in a way that is authentic, where I'm embodying everything fully. So, embodiment. Yeah, embodiment's the key, and having the strength to really do that work, because
mm,
it's not, none of this is easy, right? None of it's easy, but it's worth it 100%. So,
mm. Thank you so much. That is such
thank
a beautiful
you.
reflection. Thank you for this conversation. For those of you that are interested in any of the offerings that Dylan and I separately and together have coming up, those are also all in the show notes as well. You can stay in touch with Danielle and myself. Everything is going to be in the show notes. Danielle, thank you so much from the moment that I met you for sharing your heart with me and continuing to share your heart with me and come over and have family dinner. Like I'm so grateful that it's just more than seeing you at a circle or a ceremony, and it's like genuinely supporting one another. And so, to everybody that's listening, many blessings to you and to yours as you end this beautiful calendar year and step into another calendar year. And hopefully, you will get to spend time with Danielle and I in real life.
I love you. Thank you so much.
I love
You
you
well.
so much.
Thank you, my sister. I love you.